So the U.S. Department of State has released its visa bulletin for March of 2024, and that is a big deal if you are waiting for your priority date to become current so that your green card application can move forward. Now, the visa bulletin is issued every month by the Department of State. It shows which green card applications can move forward, and that's based on when your I-130 or I-140 visa petition that starts the green card process was originally filed. As a matter of fact, if you filed a perm labor application, that would be your priority date if you got sponsored in a job. It also, the visa bulletin lets you estimate how long it's going to take before you're going to get your green card based on how quickly the line is moving. Once your visa petition has been filed or your perm application has been filed, you'll be able to check the visa bulletin and watch your place in line move forward. So the idea is it doesn't matter how long it takes for your case to get approved. Your date is established when your perm application, I-140, I-130 is filed. Now, if you're a spouse, parent, or unmarried child under the 21 of a United States citizen, you're an immediate relative. You do not need to read the visa bulletin. There is no green card backlog for spouse, parent, or unmarried child of a U.S. citizen. You're immediately eligible for your green card. However, if you're the spouse of an unmarried child under the age of 21, of a U.S. green card holder, you're going to have to wait an extra 12 to 18 months for your green card to become available. Those numbers are backing up. About 2 years ago, those numbers were current. So it was taking just as long if you were married to a resident than if you're married to a citizen. But now we're getting a little backlogged in the F2A category. Now, if you're in a different category, your green card wait can vary from years to decades. Now, every month, the Department of State calculates the current backlog for various categories and uses this data to create a projected date of when you're going to get your green card. Those immigrants who have a priority date on before the date can begin the next step in their process by either filing for adjustment of status or filing at the National Visa Center to start processing for your immigrant visa at the consulate abroad. Now, the bulletin posts the dates of filing, which tells you when you can begin the next step. The visa bulletin also posts final action dates. That tells you when your green card is actually available. And the difference between those dates is usually roughly the time immigration expects to process your applications. So the visa bulletin, you got to check it every month so you know when you will be eligible for your green card. Now, as of February 27th, eligible Ukrainians can now apply for Re-Parole. Ukrainian citizens and their immediate families who are currently in the United States can apply for this Re-Parole, allowing them to extend their stay temporarily. Now, this opportunity is available for those who were initially paroled into the United States on or after February 1st, 2022. The decision to grant Re-Parole will be made on a case-by-case basis, considering urgent humanitarian reasons or significant public benefit. Eligible Ukrainians can also now apply for temporary protected status. They have a choice. And my opinion is that, personally, temporary protected status is a more stable and long-term program than the parole program for Ukraine. And throughout my personal observation, it's actually faster to obtain work permits and travel documents through temporary protected status than through parole. Now, the initial parole opportunity for Ukrainians was provided following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, allowing them temporary entry and work authorization in the U.S. due to the ongoing crisis in Ukraine. Given the ongoing conflict and the humanitarian situation, this parole opportunity is being extended, along with the opportunity to apply for a temporary protected status. And a number of Afghans granted special immigrant visas, or SIVs, for resettlement in the United States has increased by more than 100% last year, according to new U.S. government data. In 2023, 26,500 SIVs were granted to Afghans, more than double the previous year's total of 11,000, and a record since the program's inception in 2008. More than 18,000 SIVs were issued by U.S. consulates worldwide, with several thousand more Afghans having their statuses adjusted while already in the United States. From August 2021 to September 2022, the United States offered temporary protected status to tens of thousands of Afghans evacuated by the U.S. military following the collapse of the former Afghan government. The unprecedented surge in SIV issuance, comes amid strong demands from veteran and advocacy groups for the quick resettlement of Afghans who work for the United States military and other programs in Afghanistan between 2001 and 2021. And in Supreme Court news, the Supreme Court on Monday temporarily froze enforcement of the Texas controversial immigration law that allows state law enforcement to arrest and detain people they suspect of being illegally in the United States. Justice Samuel Alito issued the administrative hold, which will block the law from taking effect until March 13th. That temporary pause will give the court additional time to review the case, but does not necessarily signal which way the court is leaning. The Biden administration and several immigration groups have filed an emergency application with the Supreme Court hours earlier, asking the justices to block enforcement of the law. Without intervention, the law would have gone into effect on March 10th. The Justice Department said that would profoundly alter the status quo that has existed between the United States and the individual 50 states in the context of immigration for almost 150 years. The case has significant implications for immigration law and border enforcement. Texas argued the law was necessary to deter illegal crossings, while the Biden administration contended it conflicted with federal law and the United States Constitution, which gives the federal government authority over all immigration matters. The law passed by the Texas legislature, known as Senate Bill number 4, makes it a crime to cross into Texas from a foreign country anywhere other than a legal port of entry, and usually that is the international bridges between Mexico and the United States. Under a law known as SB 4, any migrant seen by the police waiting across the Rio Grande could be arrested and charged in state court with a misdemeanor on a first offense. A second offense would be a felony. After being arrested, migrants could be ordered during the court process to return to Mexico or face prosecution if they do not agree to go. And meanwhile, President Biden visited the southern border just this past Thursday. At the same time that Donald Trump also made an appearance at the southern border at a different Texas border town. Biden visited Brownsville, Texas, where he met with Border Patrol agents, law enforcement officials, and local leaders. He called on Congress to pass the bipartisan border security deal negotiated in the Senate that Republicans rejected last month after Trump opposed it. Arguing that the bill would win the majority of Democrats and Republicans in both houses, the president called on Republicans and Democrats, including Donald Trump, to just get together and get it done. And remember who we work for God's sake. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, the frontrunner for the Republican nomination, he was in Eagle Pass, Texas, which is a little more than 300 miles from where President Biden was, in Brownsville. Trump met with Texas officials, including Governor Greg Abbott, that governor who signed Texas SB 4 that we just discussed, which allows states to enforce immigration laws. Trump claimed that the United States is being overrun, quote, by the Biden migrant crime. Trump also brought up the murder last week of University of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley in his remarks. Officials say the suspect in her killing, 26-year-old Jose Antonio Ibarra, entered the United States illegally from Venezuela. Trump referred to Ibarra as the monster illegal alien migrant released into the country by President Biden. The border has become, obviously, a very political hotbed in recent months. Amid recent levels of migrant arrivals, House Republicans voted to impeach President Biden's chief border official, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. There will be a trial in the Senate to see if he will be relieved of duty, and it is unlikely that he will be relieved of duty since the Democrats control the Senate. In addition, the GOP has repeatedly called on Biden to take executive action on immigration. Now, Democrats have attempted to go on the offense on the immigration issue after Republicans rejected the long-sought border deal that would have marked the first comprehensive border security policy reform in Congress in decades. Not 10 years, not 20 years, but the last time they passed a bill of this monumental consequence was when President Bill Clinton was in office in 1996. Biden's campaign has called out Trump for blocking border security. The visit came ahead of Biden's State of the Union address on March 7th, and as the White House has been weighing whether to severely restrict access to the U.S. asylum system. The visit marked Biden's first to the southern border since a trip to El Paso in January 2023. And with all of this going on in the news, according to a recent Gallup poll, immigration is now the number one concern for Americans. In February, 28% of respondents identified immigration as the most pressing issue in the United States of America, and that was up 8 points from January of 2024. Government ranked second at 20%. Economic concerns like the economy in general and inflation followed closely behind. The survey also highlighted partisan divisions, with 57% of Republicans saying immigration is the biggest problem facing America, yet only 10% of Democrats prioritized immigration as a problem. Additionally, a record high 55% of U.S. adults view illegal immigration as a critical national interest. The Gallup poll surveyed 1,016 adults from February 1st to 20th, with a margin of error of 4 percentage points. And immigration attempts at the southwest border of the United States are quickly becoming one of the most important issues, if not the most important issue, for 2024. President Biden, following the failure of a compromise immigration reform bill that went further than any Democrats have ever gone before, just like we just discussed, is now mulling a plan to tighten up the border through executive action. Regardless of what actions take place in the short term, whether by statute or executive action, this is all being done in run-up for the 2024 election. The border crisis is going to be with us well beyond the election of 2024. And there are 4 reasons for this, highlighted in a recent opinion piece published by the Brookings Institute. First, the increase in the number of migrants attempting to enter the United States from various countries all over the world, not just Mexico. There are more people trying to enter the United States from the Mexican border than at any time in the history of the United States. Second, the challenges in hiring and retaining Border Patrol agents due to extensive background checks, physical tests, and competition with other law enforcement agencies. You know, you want to become a police officer, or you want to join the FBI, whatever, or you say, oh, I'm going to join the Border Patrol. To go to the Border Patrol, you got to uproot your family and move to the southern border where, not a lot of big cities, or you can stay where you are and just join the local police force. So it is much more difficult to hire Border Patrol agents than perhaps any other law enforcement position in the federal government. Third problem with managing the border is there's surge management issues. That means you never know on any given day the fluctuations in the numbers of migrants who are going to try to cross the border, and the unpredictability of that surge, kind of like a wave, and it goes down and goes up and goes down. That unpredictability leads to difficulties in figuring out how to staff and what resources to give and where. And finally, the last issue facing whoever the president is the chronic underfunding, the massive backlog of the immigration courts, resulting in years and years and years of delays in people's deportations being heard. Now, the Brookings Institute suggested several potential solutions, including temporarily closing the border to address the overwhelming numbers, recruiting and training more immigration judges to handle the backlogs, implementing a surge management plan similar to the reserve components in the military, and paying higher wages for Border Patrol agents to encourage people to join the Border Patrol. And with all of that being said, with people saying immigration is the number one problem facing America, the numbers don't say that. Immigration, in fact, has propelled the U.S. job market further than just about anyone has ever expected, helping cement the United States of America as the most robust economy in the world. That is not from me. That is according to the Economic Policy Institute. The momentum picked up aggressively over the past year, according to the Economic Policy Institute analysis of federal data, says about 50% of the labor market's extraordinary recent growth came from foreign-born workers who entered the United States between January 2023 and January 2024. And even before that, according to research from the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, by the middle of 2022, the foreign-born labor force has grown so fast that it closed the labor force gap created by the pandemic. If not for immigrant labor in the last 2 years, we would be facing a huge recession, a huge one. Now, Republicans have increasingly campaigned on the idea that immigrants have hurt the economy and taken American jobs. But quite frankly, any moderate, any reasonable economist says the actual data is opposite. Now, there is not a lot of data on new immigrants in recent years that were documented versus undocumented. But estimates from the Pew Research Center last fall showed the undocumented immigrant population made up about 22% of the total foreign-born U.S. population in 2021. That means almost 1 out of every 4 people who were not born in the United States of America, living in the United States of America right now, is an undocumented immigrant. Now, that's down compared with previous decades. Between 2007 and 2021, the undocumented population fell by 14%. Meanwhile, the legal immigration population grew by 29%. Now, visa processing resumption in 2021 and 2022 boosted employment, filling gaps in the labor force across industries. Immigration also addressed long-term needs like workforce replenishment, crucial as birth rates decline and older individuals retire. Net migration reached its highest level since 2017, with immigrants comprising 18.5% of the entire U.S. labor workforce. Immigration is projected to sustain the number of Americans working over the next decade, helping moderate wage inflation and price levels and keeping inflation even. Now, even before all this came out, because I'm a pretty smart guy, I had posted a video on TikTok about this subject about 2 months ago. Let's watch. The surge at the U.S. border of illegal immigrants coming into the United States actually helps the United States of America. Let me explain why. The Congressional Budget Office, which is nonpartisan, just announced that all of these illegal immigrants coming across the border in the last couple of years are going to add $7 trillion to the U.S. economy over the next decade, including $1 trillion to the U.S. government budget to pay our bills. The surge in population increases the numbers of people that U.S. businesses can sell goods and services to. More housing, more services, more products to sell to people. And the increase in the labor force helps keep wages in line with inflation. The biggest tax to U.S. workers is high inflation. Now, many people may not like illegal immigrants crossing the border for multiple reasons. One, we like to know who's coming across the border. 2, we want people to follow orderly laws. And maybe there's even some people out there who are bigots and say, I don't like people who don't look like me, or don't have my religion, or don't act like me. But in terms of pure economic benefit to the United States of America, immigration is the engine that would keep America the largest economy in the world. All right, and some good news. I came across this article recently. A City Hall wedding marked the end of a journey in New York. Maria Correa and Stalin Alquinga, if I got their names right, along with their daughter Zoemi, tied the knot at the Manhattan City Clerk's office in September 2023 after migrating from Ecuador to New York and being together for 8 years. Their journey began in Quito, Ecuador, where Alquinga recruited Correa to join a local soccer team. Their bond grew as they played together, with Correa being a forward and Alquinga defending. Correa, who has a challenging upbringing, found solace and support in Alquinga. After becoming pregnant with their first child, Zoemi, now 7-year-old daughter, Correa moved in with Alquinga's family, eventually getting their own apartment and having their second child, Anders, who is now 3 years old. Facing instability in Ecuador, they decide to migrate to the United States together, and during a perilous journey through 7 countries with their young children, just 2 and 6 at the time. Guinga's determination to protect his family strengthened their bond as they navigated jungles, rivers, and shelter shortages. Arriving in New York about a year ago, they stayed at the Row Hotel before settling in East Orange, New Jersey. And despite pressure to marry in Ecuador, they waited until they felt ready, choosing to wed in New York in 2023. And they wed because their experience of coming across 7 countries and wading across rivers and entering the U.S. as migrants and protecting their children solidified their relationship, with Correa stating, "Today we know each other very well. He knows my character. I know his character." And obviously it was meant to be. So congratulations to them.